Good morning, everyone. Today I want to share something simple but interesting. Early this morning, I decided to visit a small river that flows not too far from where I live. It wasn't some famous place or tourist spot, just a quiet river surrounded by stones, water, and fresh air. Sometimes the most ordinary places can surprise you. When I arrived at the river, the first thing I noticed was the sound of the water. It was calm but constant, slowly moving around hundreds of stones scattered along the riverbank. At first I was just walking and looking around, but then something caught my eye on the ground. A smooth black stone. It was small, simple, and slightly shiny because it was still wet from the river water. I picked it up and looked at it closely. It made me wonder, how long had this stone been here? Did it come from a mountain far away? Did the river carry it for years before it finally stopped here? Rivers are actually very powerful when you think about it. Over time, they slowly move rocks, sand, and soil across long distances. When stones travel through flowing water, they collide with each other again and again. Little by little, their sharp edges disappear. That's why river stones usually look round and smooth. As I continued walking along the riverbank, I started noticing more stones with different colors. Some were deep black, some were light brown, some were dark brown with small patterns on them. Then I noticed a stone that had a reddish color. It wasn't bright red, but it had thin red lines running across the surface. Stones like this often get their red color from natural iron minerals. When iron reacts with oxygen over a long time, it can create those red shades. Nature has its own way of painting things. A few minutes later, I found another interesting stone. This one had black and white colors mixed together. The patterns looked almost like clouds trapped inside the rock. I turned it in my hand and watched how the sunlight reflected off the surface. It's strange how something so simple can be so interesting when you slow down. Most people would probably walk past these stones without even noticing them. But if you take a moment and start looking carefully, every stone seems to have its own story. Some stones might have started their journey high in the mountains. Maybe a piece of rock broke off during heavy rain or a landslide. Then the river slowly carried that piece down through valleys and small streams. Year after year, the water kept moving it, until one day it stopped right here, right where I happened to find it today. While I was standing near the river, I also noticed how peaceful the whole place felt. No traffic noise, no crowds, just the sound of flowing water and the wind moving gently through the trees. Sometimes being in places like this reminds us that nature moves at its own pace. Mountains slowly break apart. Rivers slowly carve their paths through the land. And small stones slowly travel across the earth over many years. It's easy to forget how old the natural world really is. Some of the stones here could have formed thousands or even millions of years ago deep inside the earth. Now they sit quietly in a river, waiting for someone curious enough to notice them. As I kept walking along the riverbank, I collected a few stones that looked interesting to me. A smooth black one, a brown one with soft earthy colors, a reddish stone with natural lines, and a unique black and white stone with beautiful patterns. Each one looked completely different. That's the fascinating part about nature. No two stones are exactly the same. Even in a place full of hundreds of rocks, each one has its own shape, color, and texture. After spending some time exploring the river, I sat down for a moment and watched the water flow around the stones. It's a simple scene, but somehow it feels meaningful. Maybe it's because places like this remind us to slow down a little. Not everything has to move fast all the time. Sometimes it's enough just to observe the small details around us. Today's visit to this river turned out to be a small adventure. Not a big journey, not something dramatic. Just a quiet exploration of nature and the stories hidden inside ordinary stones. And sometimes that's more than enough. Thanks for being here and watching this little exploration with me.
Oh.